Hi everyone, it's 10 o'clock and we're still talking about money today and options. And I'm excited to be here with my partner and co-host Sarah. And I'm very excited to have Cary with us again. Cary was with me not too long ago in another summit. But before we get going, let me read Cary's bio because she is the author of the Money Queen and is a certified financial planner with an MBA in finances, has over 25 years of experience in the financial services. In 2014, Cary was named an ambassador for the CFP board, one of only 50 in the United States. Cary's latest book, which is an amazing book, is The Money Queen's Guide for Women Who Want to Build Wealth and Banish Fear. And that came out in October of last year and is an Amazon bestseller. So I am so grateful for your time again this morning, Cary. And so it's so important to be talking about this financial piece because there is only 15 states across the nation that have mandated infertility coverage. And fortunately for me, I live in one of them, which is Massachusetts. But I'm sure you know, and you know through your clients, there is such a great hardship when the financial opponent comes in about how you create your family. So good morning, Cary. Good morning, Sarah. And I'm so grateful for this conversation.
Good morning. So happy to be here.
So, Cary, why don't we just start with maybe some high-level tips about financial planning and family planning, and when it might be a good idea to what point in the process might it be a good time to talk to someone to help figure out how to deal with finances?
Sure. So, well, my ultimate thought would be when you first get married is a good time to see a financial planner. And then as soon as you decide that you want to start a family is another good time to see a financial planner. So a financial planner to see somebody, and if you one of the websites to find somebody, letsmakeaplan.org, which you can find a certified financial planner at all over the country. If you go and meet with them, they can sit down with you and do planning. So anytime you have some sort of life event, a birth, a death, a wannabe birth, anything related to change in life is a good time to see a financial planner.
Okay, so I mean the perception from from how I grew up and from what I've experienced in life is that a financial planner is someone that rich people see because they have money. What about those of us who, at the time when you're getting married, I'm just thinking of my own kind of walk.
Right.
I was in a pretty cheap apartment,
right.
And I had an okay job, but it was like also my first job.
Right.
And so I was saving money and starting to save money, but I definitely didn't see myself talking to a financial planner to manage my stock fund.
Right. Well, no. This, it's interesting. So there's different types of planners, right? So planners who help you with advice and planners who manage your stock fund. Those are two completely different things. Now, I personally do both. However, there's a bunch of planners that are, fee that just either charge hourly or give you advice. And that's somebody that you want versus somebody who's going to manage your stock portfolio when you don't have one. Right? Completely different, completely different skill sets. And what also another thing is, I think that because most couples and women, are a little bit lacking on the financial literacy side, I don't know if they know how to do this themselves. And I mean, I would tell them they can do this themselves, but they just have to figure out how, and that's just educating themselves through reading and books and things like that. Of course, my book is a good place to start because it's kind of an overall, what happens in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And I talk about starting a family in my book and planning for it, but I don't talk about planning for infertility. That's actually missing from my book, and I guess I should add it. If I do another one, I'll add that whole chapter on what if you can't get pregnant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think what you just said is so apropos for this whole week because first of all, we're addressing males. We're addressing men's health. It's Men's Health Week and Men's Health Month actually. And we're talking about how there's a gap in healthcare for men. And what I think you identified is there's a gap in financial healthcare that,
Yes.
Sarah's perception and my perception were the same. We were middle class working people, and it was, a financial planners for the wealthy. But
Right.
what you're saying is like you're a financial health doctor that you
Right.
can come in and look over your finances and what, the good, the bad, and ugly, and then give advice about what you should be doing. And
Yes.
so I think when you're under stress, as you are, if you're trying to create your family and your insurance coverage isn't covering it, it's so important to add that financial piece, a financial planner, into the team because you're building this team, So I think that is such a tweetable comment right there.
Yeah. I mean, so, it's kind of interesting to think about the idea of starting a family because, a lot of us delay having a family to be responsible and say we're not there financially, and then to say, like you have this kind of conundrum, like if you wait until you're there financially, then you're not going to be able to conceive maybe, and then you're going to have to pay more for me having a baby.
Right.
So, this is I think this is a real challenge for seeing every young couple starting out, this is, the advice is really hard because in some ways you say like, have the baby, you'll figure out life, you figure things out. And on the other hand, it's like, well, so
Right.
what are some of the things that you talk to people about when they're just in that beginning phase of thinking about having a family or starting a family?
Sure.
What are some financial things to think about?
Sure. So usually the first question when we have this conversation is childcare, and is one person? Are you both going to still work? Are you going to go down to a single family household with income? Who's taking care of the child? That is the biggest question that has to be solved amongst the couple, because if they're used to both working and making dual income, and they're going to go down to one salary, that is a major thing that you have to plan for. Let alone having the child, but just living on less salary. And how is that going to affect you? Are you going to be able to pay your bills? You're going to be able to stay in your house? All those things. So it's a major life event, and there's a lot that goes into it. So obviously, if you get pregnant, you'd have 9 months sort of to figure it out. But we at least have to have the conversation because it's a big deal. And I've had a lot of couples who, both working, who are planning for kids, and they're planning for kids like 5 years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my personal experience was, I was diagnosed. We had both male and female factor, and I was blinded to create my family. And it wasn't until I did create my family that all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have any forethought into how's this going to look, how's this going to feel, what's going to happen.
Right.
And I think knowing my story, but also hearing other couples and men's story, it's, you're in this crisis. You're in the, how do I pay for treatment? Do we pay for treatment? Are we going to take another credit card? So you're not already, future planning. You're in this immediate financial crisis.
Right.
So you have two things going on. So maybe you could talk about that, like future planning but immediate crisis.
Right. It's very difficult to think of the future when you're in quicksand or, an immediate crisis, right? Because how can you think about the future when you just have to get through today? So,
right.
It's actually almost impossible, I have to admit. If you are in a financial crisis, you cannot think long term. You actually have to postpone long term to just get through now. One of the things, I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, but they say, poor people think to get through today. That's it. That's all they can get through. Middle class people live month to month. Upper middle class people live year to year, and wealthy people live in decades. So That's kind of the mentality of where you are. And when you're in the financial crisis, you're in the now. You're in the day to day. You can't think beyond where you are. You just have to get through the day.
So how do you get yourself out of that?
Well, one thing is just know what your options are, right? So let's say, give me an example of where
I
you are in the
I have
financial crisis.
I have an example of a client.
Okay.
They're a little bit older. They waited to have their children. They've were denied by insurance and then covered by insurance. Unfortunately, that was not a positive result. They decided to move forward during the appeal and paid for IVF out of pocket. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And now they're at the point now that they have no savings, that they, are in the appeals process for the insurance, and they're at that crossroads. What do we do? How do we, financially move forward?
Right.
And so is it credit cards? Is it, remortgaging your house? Or, what is it that you do?
Obviously, every situation is different because every person is different, every situation, what they have. So a couple of thoughts I thought of in this situation is, if you have a 401k, can you borrow from your 401k? That's one thought, because you can borrow up to 50% of your 401k and pay yourself back. One way to get.
Never thought of that, Cary. Never ever thought of that. So is that without penalty, or do you have tax?
No penalty. No penalty whatsoever. And you pay yourself back. So that's one way to get cash. Another way to get cash is to borrow from your insurance policy if you have a cash value. Also, you pay yourself back. No penalties.
Okay. And there's no tax. There's no tax.
No, it's a loan. Absolutely not. Zero taxes. Then I thought about, obviously you can always either refinance your house or take out a home equity if you have the equity in the home. That's an option, and it's also tax deductible if you do that. My other thoughts were to get a part-time job, or what we call a side hustle, something that you can do on the side that you love, that brings in extra money, anything, bartending, waitressing, whatever, but so that to bring in the extra cash as well to fund whatever you're going to do. So I always think where there's a will, there's a way. You can do it. It's just a matter of figuring out what's best for you.
Well, you know what? Right then, I have not until this moment, heard anyone saying, "Oh my gosh, I can borrow from my 401k." And
well, financial planners almost never say that, but it is an option.
So Cary, now this is another. This is another client of mine, and of course I'm not talking names or anything. So now they're at the end. Now they're just in a crisis. They're $100,000 in debt, and no baby. They're heartbroken and broken. They're just broken.
Right.
So it's the recovery, right? Financial recovery. And how someone, I know it's very hard for you because it's specific, and I'm just being generalized, giving you this, but how do you, for all the people that I know that are in similar shoes, that we're not talking, we're talking thousands of dollars of debt.
Right. Well, first of all, this is my financial planning 101 that I tell everybody all the time is, do they know what's coming in? Do they know what's going out? Do they know what they can cut out of their budget? Can they downsize? Can they make the hard decisions? As far as I'm concerned, it's math, and anybody can do it if they put their mind to it and their attention to it. So let's say they're $100,000 in debt and they're spending, $5,000 a month. Can they spend $3,000 a month? Can they move into a smaller apartment? Can they sell their house? It's all a matter of choices. Can they get the 2 part-time jobs to pay off the loan? It's not great choices, but it's math, and it's all trade-offs. Everything is a trade-off. Everything in life is a trade-off. So, I know that they did all that to have the child, but now they still have to pay those bills. Unless they, file bankruptcy, which is another whole story, which I'm not advocating.
No, I didn't want to go there either, but no,
not going there.
Yeah, so it is, going back to the basics, what's coming in and what's going out. And I think it goes back to what you started with, which is calling on a financial planner.
Right.
If you make an investment, a fee investment to speak with them, it's in
Right.
their best interest, because you know what? It goes back to having the right doctor to help you, which is a reproductive endocrinologist or a reproductive urologist,
Right.
and having the right person to help you, which is a certified financial planner, and go to that website and find that person or reach out to Cary.
Right. Well, the other thing too is what's interesting is so you're saying that they spent $100,000 on this. So that's a large purchase. If you're going to spend $100,000 on something, don't you want to have advice on how to do that?
Yes.
Right? That's a huge investment. So you might spend $250 an hour to speak with somebody that might save you, or with $100,000 investment, you don't just go out and do it, without speaking to somebody first. That's my opinion.
Right.
Obviously, I'm biased, but
no, and I think we had to overcome that first belief or perception. What Sarah talked about, it's a different way of understanding a financial planner's role in your life, and knowing that it's someone that you have to have by your side. Who do you have walking right and left to you? And that's
right.
a financial planner.
Well, I'm going to give you 3 websites to go to.
Okay.
So letsmakeaplan.org is one. That's for CFPs. Another website is feeonly.org, or also called NAPFA, NAPFA.org. A third one is Garrett Planning Network, also hourly planners, and NAPFA is also hourly planners. Some of them are. So you have to just call and see, are you an hourly planner? Will you take the hourly? That's the only question you need to ask.
Okay. And if people want to call you, Cary, your information is under the video, or the link is under the video. And I think a lot of, what's happening now is fertility preservation, which for me is giving everyone the oxygen to look at a holistic approach about, the forward thinking. So if you're thinking about getting, pregnant or creating your family 5 years from now, the conversation is shifting to what you can do today. And that's why I think it's so important to be talking about the financial health.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
planning is planning. Planning for a baby, or planning for a life, or planning for anything, all relates back to financial planning.
That's awesome. So I know that you when we were talking about this, you said you just had this conversation with a client not too long ago about financial situations around fertility. And so have you been having an uprise of people coming to you about this, or
No, it was just in this one situation. Just so no, not for me. I haven't had an uprising. I just had one situation.
Well, you know what? I think we want to start the uprising. That's what I'm asking. So I'm going to let Sarah jump in, because I've been just talking away.
I've been tweeting. There's been too much good stuff here, so I'm tweeting this all out. But I think this is a great conversation, because switching the perception around our finances, and that financial planning isn't something that rich people do. It's something that we can do.
Everyone
can do, and they should do, especially when you're considering, a road that is ahead, and thinking about and taking a moment to step back and say, there's paying to have the baby, but there's also life after, and how are we going to continue our life after?
Absolutely.
Which kind of forces an element of hope that the treatment's going to be successful, and that's like a whole scary thought unto itself,
right.
Because you don't want to commit your heart to that. But I think it is important for us to realize, or to think about and step back and think, this isn't like, you don't let it be a rabbit hole that you're like, oh, I'll start with one cycle and then I'll do this, and then all of a sudden now it's added up.
Right.
So I think this is a lot of wisdom, and I think it's really encouraging, because I feel like so much stress from fertility problems comes from finances, and all of your decision making is around when and how we're going to pay for it, and there's so much conversation, and I think this is a big place where couples can get into arguments too, because you want something so bad. You know, I think of when you get married, the same kind of struggles happen, right? Like, how are you going to pay for the wedding, and is it going to be a great, this like over the top wedding, or are you going to just like, you know, get the cheaper cake or the, you know, whatever, but like this is the same kind of situation.
And I think, Sarah, too, we talk a lot about men and how it feels like during this process, just like you're talking about, there's a different style of approaching finances, and men bear the financial burden a little bit more so than women. And I think this conversation is so critical for men listening and also for women, because the tidbit that you just said at the beginning, that, you know, we all have the ability to have an advisor, a financial advisor. And I think it's women empowerment too, because, you know, in my personal and professional way of dealing with people with a financial crisis, it's really kind of abdicated to the male, because the women is so under stress about the about the physical. And so this conversation is also to talk about, you know, how this is an equally shared component of creating your family. Just like Sarah was talking about, it could be the first financial crisis, like when you're planning your wedding. What cake do you get? So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's so powerful, because both individuals need to have a voice within this. Right. And
this is a kind of an interesting question and a thing to maybe bring up. I don't know if you've seen this, Cary, but I think one thing that men do is when they're under something that's very emotional, particularly something that's hard on their wife, they want to be a hero.
Yes.
And they want to just say, you know what, I'm going to get another job and I'm going to provide for her.
Yes.
And I'm going to eat this financial bullet. And
yes.
they swallow it.
Yes.
And say, I'm going to pay for this. I don't know how. I'll sell an organ.
Right.
So
yes.
Do you talk to men in this kind of situation where they're under this like emotional pressure to make her happy? And what advice can you give?
Well, it's funny. So in my situation, I've seen that a lot with men wanting to be the hero and the hero complex. However, what I've seen is the women also are the ones who are saying, I want this no matter what. And the women are the ones who are saying, from an emotional perspective, I don't care what it takes. I'll do whatever it takes. So I see that the women are more emotional than the men. The men want to be the hero, but the women are saying, this, no matter what, we're doing this. I don't care. I'm not thinking about the money. I'm not thinking about where it's coming from. I want what I want, and I want this now.
So how do we what are some tools that you give to clients to help them bring back rein in the emotions, or say, I can.
That's my job. That's my job is to be to take the emotion out of the decision-making process. So that's literally what I'm there for. I'm there to be the voice of reason and to say, look, you can't, maybe you can't spend that $100,000 now. Maybe you want to space out the treatments, or, in this case, or maybe you want to, downsize, or maybe you want to not spend all this money, or maybe you want to, everything is a trade-off. So I'm there to sort of take the emotion out and just look at the numbers and say, you need to make a choice of X or Y, or X, Y, or Z. And so you just can't have it all. It's all a matter of life choices and trade-offs. So I'm the voice of reason.
I love that, Cary.
Successful for people that they've been able to reach what their heart desires and financially not crash themselves?
Well, that's actually what I'm here for. That's what I literally do every single day. That's my job as a financial planner, is to have clients meet their own goals, whatever they are, without crashing and burning. That's what I do.
All right, go see Cary, guys.
That's it. That we need to just end there. Get Cary's book and call Cary, because you don't have to be in this pain, this financial pain.
You do not have to crash and burn.
That's it. No crashing and burning on my watch.
Yeah, it's like Cary. I love that, because you're the neutral third party. because
Yes.
you're able to say, kind of like what I do, you're able to say the truth in a
Yes.
way that it takes the defensive part away from both people, because it is what it is. When they get to you, it is what it is, right?
Exactly.
So, Cary, God bless you. Thank you for everything.
You're
And
so welcome.
I love your energy. I love your matter of fact, way about this, because money is an emotional trigger, and you know that. And
Yes, I do.
it takes someone to just ground that earth energy and say, nope, it is what it is. This is it. So please, I hope people reach out to you and look up your book. And thank you for your time. You're always so generous for us.
You're so welcome. It was so great to talk to you guys about this subject right around Father's Day.
Yes, that's why we do it. This is our 3rd year. We always do it this week leading up to Father's Day, to provide, just to tell men that we want you healthy, we want you healed, we want you balanced, and we need you. So just like we need Cary, if you need Cary, click the link underneath. See you later, honey. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.